find us also on the World Wide Web, the station here, 1029ESPN.com. You go listen live on the Listen Live tab wherever you are. You can check in on the station from all over the world via the power of the internet. It's called a stream, and it's available thanks to Opportunity Bank. Opportunity Bank, your local bank, your opportunity. If you want to pick up your phone and call, you can do that as well. Just that easy. It's right here in the palm of your hand. Bang, 329-1899. 329-1899, the phone number. All guests join us via the Rankins Brothers RV phone line. Let's take a look at what we got in the show today. It's going to be, not surprisingly, a very heavy Cat and Grizz football show. And excitement. How long have we been waiting for this, to have Montana and Montana State back in the quarterfinals of the FCS playoffs? We're going to hear from Bobby Hauck. We're going to hear from Jeff Choate. We're going to break all of this stuff down for you throughout the course of the show today. We also have our Match from Student of the Week, Maddie Visser. She's a great, great kid from Manhattan Christian High School, a junior there, a state champion volleyball player, and a Special Olympics volunteer who's doing great work in the community of Manhattan there. So we will have her on the show and look forward to that. At the top of the hour, we're going to really break down the games. We're going to hear from the coaches, talk about the games sort of largely, but we're going to get into try and dig in and really do essentially a pregame show for you of these two games at the top of the hour. And then at about 5:20, really looking forward to this, Will Healy. Now, you might not know who Will Healy is, but the ties that he has to this state today in particular are pretty remarkable. Will Healy is the head coach of the Charlotte 49ers, the University of Charlotte 49ers. They are going to the first bowl game in program history this year, the Bahamas Bowl, on December the 20th. Okay, they're going to be playing a bowl game. Will Healy was the head coach at Austin Peay for 3 years prior to this year. Will Healy took over Austin Peay when they were, losers of 46 of their last 47 games, lost 11 in a row the year he got there. The next year, we're 8-1 in the FCS, one of the great turnarounds in the history of college football. 3 consecutive top 5 FCS recruiting classes, and now his team, a lot of the guys he recruited are really the ones that are going to be playing tonight in Bozeman in just a couple hours. So we'll talk to him. He also, notably, was a quarterback for Richmond in 2008 when the Richmond Spiders beat the Montana Grizzlies in Chattanooga, Tennessee for a national championship. So he's all over the map right now, even though he's the head coach of Charlotte. So we'll certainly look forward to talking to him. And, of course, then the 2-minute mashup, because that's how we like to end on a Friday on a high note, especially a week like this. So there you go. There's our show outlook. It is brought to us by Shine Auto Detailing, online at shineautodetailing.net. Go get your car clean and protected for the winter at Shine Auto Detailing. Colter Nuanez is over in Bozeman right now. They are getting him uplinked to us as we speak. So as soon as he is available, he's at the Rockin' R Bar in downtown Bozeman, Montana. So if you're in Bozeman, you're watching us over there, go down, hang out for a while, have a drink, have yourself some food, get ready before the football game here in the next couple hours. You still got time. You got plenty of time to get over there and enjoy yourself at the Rockin' R Bar. So as soon as he is available with us, we will get going on that. But we wanted to start with, we're going to do 20 minutes of Montana Grizzlies, take a break, do 20 minutes of Montana State Bobcats. Okay, that's how we're going to start the show here, first couple of segments. So we will get in with Bobby Hauck right here and right now. Bobby Hauck from the press conference earlier this week. We wanted to save some of this stuff for you. We played a little bit of it earlier, but we're going to play a fair amount of it now. Here you go, Bobby Hauck talking about just the his opening comments coming out of a win in a playoff game and now going on the road to face Weber State, the number 3 team in the nation.
It's good to be back in the quarterfinals again for the first time in a long time. You know, the fact that we have a short week of preparation coupled with the fact that it's finals week will be difficult in terms of our preparation, but I expect our guys to lock in, find a way to overcome that. Playing a team the second time in a year is always a challenge. In reviewing our last game with Weber State, I didn't think we played particularly well, so we need to play better than last time in order to win this game. We need to execute better and really just need to go out and play our best game of the season.
Interesting comments by Bobby Hauck that they did not play very well. They didn't execute very well in a game that they were up 35-3 against the number 3 team in the nation. So that's the track that he's taking. There was a follow-up question about, well, what specifically was it that you didn't do very well or that your team didn't do very well? And he said, well, the list is so long, we just don't have time. So he kind of made a passing gesture at that. But the idea here that he is simply just taking a line of motivation with his team to say, you think you played well? There's a point later in the press conference that, it's hard to get 18 to 22-year-olds to believe what you're saying when they've already won a game. That was one reason he said it's hard to win a second time. And so his attempt from day one, from moving on last weekend against Southeastern Louisiana, has been to convince his team that they did not play well against Weber State. Because I think a lot of fans watching would say maybe that was the best game of the year that Montana played. Hammering Weber State the first time through. He's going to say, no. You think you hammered them? If you do that again, you're going to get beat. You play the way you played at Washington Grizzly Stadium on November 16th, you're going to get beat. That's what he's attempting to convey. Now, whether they buy that, whether they believe that, whether that works as a motivational tactic for preparation, again, I think people underestimate how important the week is. I mean, everybody understands how important the week is at some level, right? But you think, okay, it's game day. Now it's time to get up. No. Game day isn't the day to get up. Game day is the day to go actually somewhat relax, hit a certain level, and then go perform and execute. It's the week of preparation, having excellence in practice, having energy in practice, and having a belief that not just because it's the quarterfinals, but because it's a team that you beat already, that you still got to go prove it again to them if you're the Montana Grizzlies and to everybody else. Because look, beating Weber State in Washington Grizzly Stadium during the regular season is all well and good, especially the way they did it. If you lose in the playoffs to Weber State, then that game sort of gets pushed to the margin. It doesn't mean it doesn't happen or anything like that. It just means that that's no longer something that you're hanging your hat on, right? The team that gets the last win, they're the ones who get to ultimately say, well, let me know what happened when it mattered, right? So Montana looking to prove it, as it were, tonight. It's also interesting because it's finals week in the state of Montana. Grizzlies, Bobcats both have finals. Now, some of the seniors maybe don't have that much going on. That's probably good news, but a lot of the underclassmen, in fact, all of them do. And even from Cy Sermon, we heard he's only got one class, turns out to be physics, so he's got some work to do there. But Bobby Houck talked about finals week and what it is to have this game during a finals week and the difficulty that comes with that. Here you go.
You mentioned it's finals week, though. What sort of mental focus does that take, I guess, prepare for a big playoff game but also get schoolwork?
Well, I hope they can do it. It's generally a bad thing for us academically. If we asked you're given a choice, you're going to prepare for your accounting final, or you're going to watch football film. Which one would you do? So we've got to work hard on our schoolwork, and it's been hard on our GPAs in the past.
Interesting tact again from Bobby Houck there. I mean, no doubt that he isn't saying something that is true. But most coaches, A, probably won't acknowledge that, and B, he didn't seem all that remorseful about it, right? I mean, he just sort of stated it. Yeah, it's not really good for our GPAs in general. What would you rather do? Yeah, well, of course, what would you rather do? But there's a lot of what would you rather do's in life, right? I mean, every day you probably got to do something, probably a bunch of things that you don't really want to do, but you have to do. And such as the state of collegiate athletics right now, that even though a bunch of guys are playing Division I football, a bunch of gals are playing Division I basketball, sports, whatever it is, and are there explicitly for the sport, you are required to also participate in academics. And I'm not here to pretend, even at the FCS level, in a lot of places, that the academics always come first and, these are student athletes and they're there to get their degree. Look, man, you can buy that if you want to. I don't. But also, the guys is usually kept up. Yeah, we got to go. We got to be great in the classroom. We got to go. Well, really what you got to do is get yourself over a certain bar that isn't actually all that high to be eligible to play. I mean, that's what you have to do. And certainly playing football in the playoffs during a finals week, maybe it's not a surprise what gets pushed to the margin. Tootell, Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. By the way, meant to tell you, it's Friday, usually before the show, but I'll do it right now because, I mean, it is a break after all. It's a Florence Coffee Company coffee break. I got myself vanilla cappuccino. Been nursing this thing for a little while. Tasting very good to me. Thank you very much. It's Friday night. Boys and girls, you got a big night ahead of you. Montana State kicks off at 6. They're going to be going till 9, 10 o'clock. The Grizzlies kicking off at 8. They're going to be going till 11 midnight. You need some fuel for the fire, people. Right now, you are almost certainly close to a Florence Coffee Company coffee kiosk. Pull in there. Get yourself a nice coffee. Get your weekend started right. You got to be up late tonight. You got to have some energy into your football game. So go ahead and get yourself a Florence Coffee Company. We appreciate them keeping us properly caffeinated for a big Friday night. I mean, there should be lines at Florence Coffee Company tonight, right now, getting ready for this game. Okay, I am told that we have our dear friend Colter Nuanez available from the Rock and Arbor. Colter, how are you doing over there? We got you, bud?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Okay.
Anybody? No?
There we go. There we go.
You can hear me.
How you doing, bud?
Good. How you doing?
Doing great. We can hear it going down over there in the Rock and
Oh, yeah. It's a game day Friday. It's busy.
The place is pretty packed right now.
Indeed. Yeah, it's a packed house right now. We had to go up to campus to get press pass for our illustrious colleague, Tucker Sargent, and bustling up on campus, people getting nice and lubed up for the game, and Rock and Arbor is rocking right now. So Friday night football, Bozeman, Montana, pretty fun.
It is very cool. Excited about that. We may well hear from Tucker Sargent here in a little while as well. But first, let's continue hearing from Bobby Houck. He was asked about what it's like to, or what it means, I guess, rather, to have the University of Montana on ESPN2 and the significance of that on a national platform. Here's what he said.
I think it's great for the state of Montana. I think it's great for the University of Montana. It's a big time to play football.
You know, it is a big deal, Colter, to be able to be on ESPN2 and they're going to be the only football game in America on national television, and it'll be the only college game being played from about the middle of the second quarter on. How important do you think that is for just exposure in general?
Oh, it's gigantic. I mean, I think there's no question that between 2000 and 2009, skyrocketed enrollment. I mean, the Grizz were on ESPN more than other SBS. No question. And that definitely had a huge impact. I remember going from Seattle, Portland, Alaska, all over the Northwest. How'd you find out about Montana? Oh, we saw the game on ESPN. We saw the Grizz basketball. You've seen that exact same thing, but on the other side of the Great Divide at Montana State since, during this decade. I mean, Montana State has done such a great job branding itself on a statewide, regional-wide, and nationwide level, and you can see it just in the growth in Bozeman, the growth of campus. But Bobby Houck's right, and I think it's something that needs to be expressed to the higher-ups at the University of Montana. At the end of the day, Montana is a football school. They need to prioritize every element of their football program because it will help every other element of their school. Montana State's doing it right now. You can see it with the way that this town is abuzz for the Bobcats. So I do think what Coach Houck said, it has a lot of meaning there because I think he's right on. I think he hit it right on the head.
Yeah, and it's interesting, too, when you talk about Montana State, that they're in this situation where they probably had an opportunity to be on national TV, and then the conflict with graduation tomorrow, so they said, hey, we need to move this to Friday, and ESPN said, that's fine, but now you're going to be streaming on ESPN Plus or watch ESPN rather than on, a national television feed. I mean, it's been rolling right now in Bozeman, basically in every aspect, both the city, the university, and obviously the football team as well. But how much of a miss do you think that is for this team? And do you think they should have tried to find a way to play a game on Saturday?
Well, I mean, I think that the fact of the matter is Montana State's playing a football game this time of year, and it's conflicting with graduation for the first time maybe ever. I mean, the fall walking graduation has only been a reality at the University of Montana for 2 years. I think it's been here for probably more than 15 years, but not like forever. This is not a forever thing. This is relatively new. But I think this is the first time they've ever had to deal with this problem. But it's not a problem. It's a good problem to have. You're talking about a really, really exciting weekend in Bozeman for every avenue of the town. I mean, I'm sure this is going to be a huge economic boon to the entire downtown, from graduation as well as the football game. And sure, I mean, it's not as much exposure being on ESPN3 as it is on ESPN2. You're not going to get those people that are just flipping through the channels. They might just land on it and watch your school for a little bit. But at the same time, when these games first started getting broadcast on ESPN3 and ESPN Plus, it was so hard to find those channels. A lot of cable providers in Montana did not have access to those channels. So it was a huge pain. And I remember even the congressmen, the senators, they got involved to try to get some local ability to watch the games. I remember it was like a gigantic pain when Montana State was playing New Hampshire back in 2011. So many people were freaking out because they couldn't get the game. It's just a lot easier now, right? I mean, everybody has the internet. Most people have $5 to pay. I know it's not ideal, but it's better than it has been. So even though, you might miss a couple people that are flipping through the channels and land on Montana State Austin Peay and watch it, it's definitely exposure for your school. There's no question about it. But to me, it's not necessarily the singular event. It's the repeat of it, right? Like when you think of D3 football, what do you think? You think of Wisconsin Whitewater and you think of Mount Union, because those are the teams that are always on ESPN. Those are the teams that always make it to the Division III championship game. I think that's what the schools have to gun for, is getting to the point where it's not just this weekend, it's not tonight, it's not tomorrow. It's that every year when just normal football fans who know nothing about the FCS are scanning through, they're like, oh, Montana State are on again. That's cool. They were on last year. They must be pretty good. That's what you want, is the affirmed and consistent repeat appearances on ESPN.
Yeah, well, and you make a good point, because, I mean, at this point, even online, it's such an easier experience and a higher quality experience to get games that you're looking for, that anybody who wants to see the game, who's interested in it all, can get it and get it relatively easily. I think, to me, it's not even about the guy in his den flipping through the channels and landing on the thing, but it's all of the bars across America, all of the, sports areas, restaurants and stuff that just have ESPN on constantly. Totally. And that's kind of where people just kind of bump into it, and you're missing out on certainly hundreds of thousands, if not millions of quote-unquote impressions because of that. But again, like you said, if you can consistently be there, then that's when it makes the difference. Hey, let's also hear from Bobby Hauck talking about playing a night game. He's not too thrilled about it, to say the least.
Playing Friday, like you said, it's a shorter week now, but it is for them as well.
They don't have to travel.
That's true. But do you like playing a night game?
No.
Why not?
I think night games suck. I'm honest today. I'm telling the truth today. I think college football's a day game, a Saturday afternoon game.
So there you go, Bobby Hauck talking about why it's a Saturday day game. He doesn't like night games. He didn't really expound at all, Coulter, as to why he found that to be the case. He just sort of asserted it, which he's prone to do. What do you think? You love Saturday games. You hate the night stuff, too.
Well, I mean, I agree with him that college football is a day game. I do think it's very fun this time of year to get games that are playoff games, that are winner-go-home games, that will be under the lights. I mean, I love the experience of it, and it's fun. It's just really hard from a coverage standpoint. I mean, like tonight, anybody out there listening, if you're up like at 1:30 in the morning, please go to SkylineSports.com, because you'll be one of a few people that is not going to read it until the morning, because I know that it's just going to be late. But I mean, that's okay, because I do think every once in a while it's okay. The thing that's so interesting, though, is that Bobby Hauck was being sort of a curmudgeon when he was talking about his lack of his lack of affinity for night games. But the fact of the matter is, Bobby Hauck has just not been very good in night games throughout his career. I mean, in night games in his career, he's just 9-7, but in the FCS playoffs, if I'm not mistaken, he's only won one night game. So it has been to his detriment. His teams have seen their seasons end often in night games, and granted, 3 of those night games were in Chattanooga, Tennessee, in the national championship. So it's not as if it was some abrupt or terrible failure or any sort. It was just the fact that they ran into a buzzsaw in James Madison, in Richmond, and in Villanova. But overall, Bobby Hawks 9-7 in night games, 9-6 versus FCS teams. He's 7-3 on the road in night games, 7-2 on the road versus FCS teams. 5-1 versus Big Sky teams, 2-1 at home, 1-4 in the playoffs, including 0-3 at neutral sites. So, granted, I mean, this is basically only the third non-national championship night game that they've played, and the first one actually on the road. So that's actually interesting. First on the road FCS playoffs non-national championship night game there is tonight. But maybe that's why he doesn't like it, because he just hasn't had nearly the level of success.
Yeah, well, I mean, I understand that, but I'm going the exact other way with this. Night games are where it's at. It's called prime time. If you're playing at night, something is going right. Plus, the fans got their whole day to get themselves worked up into a frenzy. Right. Maybe a bunch of Grizz fans able to travel because it's in the evening. I don't know, all that stuff. I love it under the lights. I don't care what anybody says.
Well,
that was your Burn Street Bistro Burn of the Week.
Good one, Jeff.
Yes, I'm a fan. That's right.
You're a fan, but you have 3 kids. Think about when you have something that you have to do with your kid that's hours away. And then imagine not being able to do anything with your kids until that moment came. And then multiply your kids by 40 and make them 18-year-old boys. You know, I mean, I talked to Cy Sermon about it, and I was like, dude, what's it going to be like before the game? And he was like, dude, it's going to be terrible. I'm just going to be sitting there, waiting for, like, the biggest athletic moment of my life. Sitting there. You know, and these guys have the body clocks this time of year where they're waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning. So by the time you're getting ready to go at 8 p.m. at night, I mean, it impacts the littlest thing, right? It impacts how much water have you drank? Are you going to be able to rehydrate? You know, are you going to be able to properly hydrate? What's your food schedule like? You don't want, I mean, by this time you're going to have probably 3, maybe even 4 meals. You don't want to be too full. You know, all those little things that you don't think about. And also then there's the dynamic of just the psychological factor. One thing is, this is not a Saturday night game. These guys have not been sitting around watching games all day. I think that can go 2 ways, right? Like, you just sit around and watch college football all day and then go play a game. Maybe you're all jazzed up, but maybe you're lethargic. Maybe you saw a bunch of teams get upset, so now you have that in your mind. But I think that there's a lot of distraction. Is not the right word. There's just a lot of tediousness that goes into the night game from the player perspective, and that's probably why the coach.
No doubt. There you go. The Grizzlies kicking off 8 o'clock, Ogden, Utah. Can't wait for that. And before that, hour and a half away, just over from kickoff in Bozeman, Montana, which is where Coulter is right now at the Rock and R Bar. We're doing 2 places at once, man. This is great. I love the technology on this thing at the Rock and R Bar there in Bozeman. We'll take a quick break. We'll come back. Jeff Choate and the Montana State Bobcats, a huge home game against Austin Peay. We'll hear from the head coach right after this.
Not all gift cards are created equal. The Montana Club gift card comes with more handcrafted breakfast, lunch, and dinner favorites than any other local card. Home-style breakfasts, perfectly grilled Angus steaks, piled-high sandwiches, expertly mixed cocktails, local craft beers, and much, much more. This year, give Montana made. Buy in-store or at montanaclub.com. Give $100 in gift cards and get a $10 gift card free. It's easy. Happy holidays from everyone at your Montana Club.
Hey there, Coulter Nuanez from your favorite daily sports talk show, Tootell Nuanez. I'm here with Tom from Aspen Sound. Tom, last winter I got a sweet car starter. It's something I think everybody needs.
You know, Coulter, I couldn't agree more, and my wife sure thinks so too. We've got a lot of sweet deals. We actually have it capable now where you can start it from your phone from anywhere you'd like. We have 2-way remotes that'll confirm to you the vehicle started all the way down to our basic package starting at just $299 installed. Come on in and check us out.
Feel the music at Aspen Sound.
Thank you for making Polaris America's best-selling off-road brand. During the Polaris Great American Thank You event, financing is as low as 3.99%, and rebates go as high as $3,500. Live life wide open in a high-performance RZR. Tackle everything from mountains to mud holes in a legendary Sportsman ATV. Get more done with a hard-working Ranger, or elevate your adventure in a versatile Polaris General. Now is the time to get the season's best deals on America's best-selling off-road lineup, with financing as low as 3.99%, APR for 36 months, and rebates up to $3,500 during the Polaris Great American Thank You. at Kurtz Polaris, 2904 West Broadway in Missoula and Highway 83 in Sealy. All the best machines, gear, apparel, and accessories to enjoy winter this year are at Kurtz. Go check out their 2020 snowmobile inventory right now and all the clothing, helmets, gloves, hats, and jackets to keep you safe, warm, and looking great at Kurtz Polaris and KurtzPolaris.com. Rebates valid in U.S. through 12/31/19 on new 2016 through 2020 vehicles. Subject to credit approval. Offers vary by model. See dealer for details. Always wear a helmet. Never drink and ride.
It's a crisp fall morning. Time for your daily pumpkin soy latte. As you wait for your coffee, you get a buzz. No, it's not your boss wanting extra whipped cream, but your ADT video doorbell. It's a package. Your new latte machine. No more $5 PSLs. Barista service. Brought to you by ADT. Designing and installing a smart home just for you. Backed by best-in-class 24/7 protection. Learn more at ADT.com. ADT. Real protection. License information available at ADT.com.
Last May, Ten Spoon Winery partnered with the Historical Museum with Hello to Old Missoula, Missoula's History Through Art, an event where attendees voted on their favorite piece of art, which would become the next Ten Spoon wine label. Votes were counted, and Megan Odell's piece depicting the 1990s Roxy Theater fire was the winner. Now you can drink wine for history, as Ten Spoon is dedicating a portion from every bottle of Roxy Fire wine sold to the Historical Museum. Find it now at local retailers or call 406-549-8703.
A Big Sky Conference great is rejoining the league, and an NFL great is part of the Big Sky Conference for the first time, as the FCS playoffs are also back in the state of Montana in mid-December. Hello, I am Ryan Tootell. The FCS playoffs quarterfinals begin tonight with 3 games in action. Second-seeded James Madison hosts Northern Iowa tonight in about a half an hour from Harrisonburg, Virginia. That kicks off a doubleheader. The second game, number 3 Weber State hosting number 6 Montana at Stewart Stadium in Ogden, beginning at 8 o'clock. The Grizz dismantled the Big Sky champion Wildcats 35-16 in Missoula on November 16th. The playoffs will also be raging in Montana as the 5th-seeded Montana State Bobcats host Austin Peay. The Governors went to number 4 Sac State and posted a convincing 42-28 victory last week. Montana State, fresh off a 47-21 drubbing of Albany, is gunning for its first semifinal berth in the FCS playoffs since 1984. This week also included plenty of action across the Big Sky for other teams not in the playoffs. On Tuesday, Cal Poly hired former Eastern Washington head coach Bo Baldwin to lead its program. On Thursday, Northern Colorado upped that ante, hiring former Denver Broncos wide receiver Ed McCaffrey.
This ESPN Missoula Sports Center is brought to you by Aspen Sound.
Welcome back to Tootell and Nuanez, 1029 ESPN Radio, SWX Montana, across the state. And speaking of being across the state, I'm here in Missoula, Coulter in Bozeman, getting ready for the Montana State Austin Peay game. He's at the Rockin' R Bar, hanging out there. If you're watching us in Bozeman, hanging out in and around the town, if you're listening on the stream, heading into the game, stop by the Rockin' R Bar. It's going off in there. It'll be before and after the game, so swing in there. Get yourself ready to go for a big Friday night quarterfinal game. We are broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy, and online at KurtzPolaris.com. Coulter, we talked about Montana in the first segment. It's time to talk about Montana State. Kicking things off in 90 minutes against Austin Peay. We got some sound here from Jeff Choate, but before we get to that, just quickly, as you look at this Austin Peay team, this Governors team, and Montana State, it feels like strength on strength in a lot of ways. As you've continued to break this game down, what do you see just initially?
I think it is strength versus strength. Consider Austin is number 7 ranked rush defense in the United States of America at the FCS level, but also they're really good against the pass. And I thought that they're actually their best advantage matchup-wise last week against Sac State was in the secondary. Cordell Jackson was one of the best defensive backs in the country. I had him 6th on my Walter Payton Award ballot, so that shows you what kind of my Buck Buchanan Award ballot. That shows you what kind of talent he is. But I think that the most fascinating strength versus strength is the psychological parallel of these two programs. Now, granted, Montana State was never as downtrodden or as much of a doormat as Austin was. never in their history. The Bobcats had 14 straight winning seasons between 2002 and 2016, Jeff Choate's first year. I guess Rob Ash's last year, 2015. And so to compare, a team that lost 45 out of 46 games to a team that has won multiple Big Sky Conference championships this century and even multiple Big Sky Conference championships this decade, that's a little bit far-fetched. But I guess the psychological portion I'm talking about is the guys that are the seniors on these two teams, what they went through. Because it is a similar dynamic. Going 0-11 like Austin Peay did that first year under Will Healy, it's not the same as going 4-7 in the first year under Jeff Choate. But I think it's equally as excruciating for the programs. One, a program that's used to losing. Another one, a program that's not. But it's equally as excruciating. And then when you go through a rebuild and you are the team and you're the group of guys that leads the team back to prominence, or in Austin Peay's case, to prominence for the very first time, I think that's a cool dynamic and a great story. And so for these seniors at Austin Peay to be able to be going out with one of the great seasons, actually the great season in the Division I history of Austin Peay, that's huge. But also for Montana State, for this group of seniors to get this program back on track, get them into the playoffs for the second year in a row, to have 10 wins under their belt, to have a first-round bye and a playoff seed, very affirming, very rewarding for them as well. So I think that the level of motivation and the psychological reward that the senior classes on both sides of this game have received are very similar.
Well, Jeff Choate, he had plenty to say at his press conference earlier this week as well, including talking about an offense that's maybe giving him a little taste of his own medicine.
A lot of variety to their run game, a lot of different formations, a lot of different people handling the ball, and get your eyes mixed up in a hurry. Very, very talented.
Colter, you always tell me that the whole goal of college football is for adults to make kids confused so that they make mistakes. And clearly that's what both of these offenses' goal is. Yes, they got really good players, but deception is also king for both of them, right?
Oh, absolutely. And you're going to see a lot of fly sweep motions. You're going to see a lot of smoke and mirrors, pre-snap movements. Montana State runs this. It was so funny to hear Jeff Choate as he continued on in that exact soundbite we just played. He said, it's not triple option, but it's triple option-esque. That's what coaches around the Big Sky have said about Montana State for several years now, especially when they had Chris Murray and Troy Anderson operating at quarterback. But Montana State, they still run so many option elements. That's what you're going to see. And I think that's been probably the most underrated and the most impressive to me part of Austin season. The linchpin of the entire comeback of this program was when they signed a kid out of Brentwood Academy named Jeremiah Oatsball. He was the number one recruit in FCS coming to Austin. He was the preseason Ohio Valley Conference Player of the Year this year, coming into the year. He was supposed to be the guy that was going to lead them on this great run. Well, then he got hurt against Central Arkansas. They lost that game, and they lost two out of the next three, including that Central Arkansas game. So that's where two of their three losses came. But Javon Craig, it took him, as you heard Mark Hudspeth say on this show on Monday, it took him about 6 quarters to get settled in, about a game and a half. But once he did, they catered the offense around him. They added so much of this Wildcat type stuff. They have the Harley kid who runs a lot of Wildcat stuff, like Travis Johnson, Montana State. They also added a bunch of the zone read stuff, fly sweep stuff, jet sweep stuff. And I think that's very similar to Montana State as well. So it's all about pre-snap deception. It's all about getting the defender to move his eyes to the wrong area and get him peeking in the wrong way and then gash him with something else. And that's the beauty of it is you use the complicated to set up the simple, then you hit him with the simple over and over and over again. That's what Montana State did so well against Montana a few weeks ago and what they've done so well this entire year. So it'll be interesting to see which team prepared for a style that they're used to seeing in practice better, because these two teams are going to be used to seeing it as well, because they do see their first team offense every single day.
Austin Peay, their defense is really good at stopping what Montana State's offense is really good at doing. Here's what Jeff Choate had to say about the Governor's defense.
He's twitchy, and so they present some problems for you there. And then the active DBs, the Jackson kid has 7 interceptions on the year, and so obviously they've got some guys that are good.
They do have some guys that are good. That is for sure. And Colter, you talked about their nose tackle in particular, who has got to have a huge day today. But if he can play, in the Montana State backfield, and he way outsizes and out-leverages Montana State center. That is what the Governors absolutely have to have in order to have a look at this, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, Josephus Smith, 5'8", 295 pounds. I thought it was really funny when Jeff Choate called him twitchy. I don't know if that's the word I would use. I get what he's saying. He's right. Explosive. But, I mean, the guy is, you know me, guys. I love interior line. It's what I love in football. Love it. This guy popped to me right away because Wyatt Ming is one of the best centers in the country in Sacramento State. And Wyatt Ming is enormous. He is an enormous man. He is 6'4", 330 pounds. He was getting blasted off the ball all game last week. That was the very first guy I looked up on Austin's roster. I had known about Javon Craig. I had known about the running back because he was an all Ohio Valley guy too. But as soon as I saw Josephus Smith and saw the numbers, I mean, for playing the true zero technique he knows, to have 20 tackles for loss and 7.5 sacks is absurd. That's an absurd number. And his physicality and the way he's built, it definitely. And so he recruited by the SEC. But that doesn't mean that he's not an absolutely dominant player at this level, which he has been. Absolutely dominant for Austin Peay. So that'll be definitely a huge with Montana State rushing the ball for 270 yards a game. What sort of havoc, what sort of plays in the backfield can Josephus Smith make? Other than that, though, I think that Austin Peay's front seven, they are fast, they fly to the ball, but they're not big. So that part, if they could mitigate and sort of manage Josephus Smith, I do think that Montana State will have an advantage in the trenches otherwise.
You know, I want to ask you about that element of it, though, too, because Jeff Choate was asked specifically about sort of this new fly sweep element that they've added in the offense. And, they handed a couple of times to the guy coming in motion, but more often than not, and Jeff Choate said this, he's like, we just want to catch guys looking, maybe get them moving and not paying attention. Josephus Smith doesn't need to look at anything but who's in front of him. I mean, he goes straight up the field every single snap. And so for a team that does want to run it between the tackles, some of that deception, at least on that very interior side, seems like it may be not as effective in this particular matchup.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think that coaches always talk about softening the edges, really dice up the interior. And I think the number one adjustment that Montana State made is so that the Montana State run game has continued to evolve and blossom. It's been one of, if not the best rushing team in the league last year. But so much of the production in 2017 and 2018 came from Chris Murray and Troy Anderson. Those guys had two of the most productive and prolific rushing by quarterback in the history of the Big Sky Conference. Troy Anderson shattered the record for single-season rushing yards in the league with 1,430-plus last year, 21 rushing touchdowns. So Montana State, earlier in the first half of this year, I think that they got by with just brute strength and depth at running back. They're running a lot of the Wildcat stuff with Travis Johnson, Troy Anderson. But I think that they became a little bit predictable. People knew, all right, like North Dakota, what they did, they just loaded up the box and just brought the house and just dared Tucker Rovig to beat them. And Tucker Rovig had not turned the corner confidence-wise at that moment. And teams, it doesn't matter how big or strong you are. If you're going against two-man boxing, you're going to have uphill sledding. And so Montana State, what did they add? They added that jet sweep motion where they actually hand the ball off. And you saw Divine Tolis get 7 carries against Northern Colorado. Saw Tyrone Marshall get carries against Southern Utah and Northern Colorado. And so then all of a sudden when that's on tape, now you got guys peeking. And then your inside zone, your power, your counter, all that stuff starts to work a lot better. And honestly, it was on full display more than any other game against the Grizzlies. That's how Montana that's how Montana State exploited Montana. I mean, they were just tricking Robbie Houck and Dante Olson, but specifically Robbie Houck. Robbie Houck got caught inside on the inside zone multiple times, and then Tyrone Marshall scored that 29-yard touchdown, and then Robbie Houck was just stuck in the mud for the entire rest of the game. He didn't know which way to go every time they ran that pre-snap motion. That's why you do it. And when you add, but that's where one part where Austin is even more dynamic in the run game than Montana State, because you add all those factors, but then you also have the +1 with Javon Craig. Tucker Rovig does not give Montana State the +1. They've mitigated that by playing Travis Johnson at quarterback sometimes in Wildcat spots. But Javon Craig, he's a built-in Wildcat. He's rushed for almost 850 yards this year. So I think that's a place where Austin Peay might even be more diverse than Montana State in the run.
Tootell, Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television. Ryan Tootell coming to you from Missoula, Montana. Colton Nuanez coming to you from Bozeman, Montana at the Rock and R Bar. Happy to be so. Jeff Choate, he is not short on words very often, but sometimes the stuff he says is completely spot on to me. And this is one such instance. He was asked if he was surprised about how well Austin Peay performed against an outstanding Sacramento State team on the road last week. Listen to what he had to say to that question, and then we'll discuss.
So, who's still interested in playing football, who's taking a victory lap. This game I've already really seen. I just feel like that's what I saw. I saw an Austin Peay team. Energy, higher level. In a tournament setting, that's so much of it. Really can't. How bad a guy was. How important the team is to do it. I tell our guys all the time, there's two types of setting like this. Satisfied teams. So you got to decide who you want to be. I'm hopeful that our guys are going to decide.
You know, it's such an interesting comment by him, and one that I just couldn't agree with more. It is so much about who, quote unquote, wants to be there. That's not even the right way to talk about it. Look, if you talk to anybody on Sacramento State, their first playoff game in program history, certainly they were, quote unquote, excited to be there and wanted to be there, but maybe they were a little too expectant. We're just going to roll because they have been so good all season long. I don't know what it was, but it certainly appeared that Austin Peay was just the more motivated, excited team, wanted it, that was more hungry in that sort of sense, or at least that's the way it comes across on the field. I don't know how you produce that, Colter. I don't know how you get your team more ready to play or more excited about, a game than your opponent, but you have to be somehow or another. You have to have that hunger, and that is 9 times out of 10 what is going to win the day in games like this.
No question. I think the Sac State analysis is very interesting because transitioning, even with those Sac State established themselves as the front runners in the conference, when they came to Bozeman, they're 3-0 in league play with 3 wins over Montana. They still had the underdog mentality. They're Sac State. They've never been here. How do they improve it? How do they not fall off a cliff? Kevin Thompson got hurt. How do they continue to win games? They were able to, though, still. But then having a week off and having all the things that happen to them, program first Big Sky Conference championship, then you get the first bye in the playoffs, the first seed, first top 4 seed, then Kevin Thompson gets Offensive Player of the Year. 7 of your players get the first team all league. Troy Taylor gets named Big Sky Conference Coach of the Year. And all of a sudden, you have all these distractions. And I'm not saying that Sac State was distracted, but it's really hard to never have been anointed anything, get anointed with everything, and then have to transition your mindset from upstart, underdog, favorite team, and playing against a team that's Riverboat Gamblers that are complete upstart underdogs in Austin Peay. Sac State had to face it. They had the same mentality as they did. They had to adjust to a different one. They weren't able to do it. They're down 21-0 in the blink of an eye, and that's exactly, honestly, Sac State's really talented, but it's not surprising they fell flat in their first playoff game. Think about these Montana schools, though, Gus. They're not going to have any lack of motivation. They're going to straight up be ready to play tonight. I guarantee it. And I'm excited to watch it both.
Yeah, well, it's going to be very exciting and a cool situation, actually, potentially for both sets of senior classes, where you play in a quarterfinal game on a Friday night, you go back and you walk and you graduate on Saturday. That's a pretty great weekend, it seems to me.
Oh, absolutely. And I was asking Cy Sermon that in the interview we played yesterday. If you missed it, check it out on the podcast, 129ESPN.com. But Cy Sermon, Montana Senior Center, said, this is going to be pretty fascinating. We're going to probably get back on the bus to Missoula about 5:30 in the morning, maybe 6. Graduation's at 9. They're either going to be riding a high and feeling so good and ready to have the greatest graduation parties of their lives, or they're going to be dog tired and not want to skip that ceremony, and it's going to be a devastating attitude as they walk across that stage. But I think that gives you an extra incentive, right? Like your college life coming in the span of one 24-hour period And I hope these guys embrace it, and I really think they will.
Tootell, Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. Ryan Tootell with you from Missoula. Colton Nuanez in Bozeman at the Rockin' R Bar, getting you set for Montana State hosting Austin Peay just over an hour from now, and then Montana on the road at Weber State coming up at 8 p.m. tonight on ESPN2. We'll take a quick break, and we'll pause on the quarterfinal stuff to bring you a really great conversation with our Mattress Firm Student of the Week, Maddie Visser from Manhattan Christian High School, a great junior there. She's a state champion in volleyball this season in Class C and also doing great work with the Special Olympics. You'll hear from her right after this.
You know what's at stake after a car accident? Not only will you have to deal with pushy insurance companies, auto repair shops, endless doctor's appointments, and dozens of unforeseen problems, but also your normal day-to-day life. I'm Coulter here with Catherine from the Advocates Injury Attorneys, and she knows how hard this can be.
That's right. And with all of that, it can seem tempting to take the quick settlement that the insurance company is offering. But I can tell you from experience that it is not going to be a fair amount. I see it all the time where someone has settled with the insurance company and months later realizes that they still have pain from the accident. And now they're having to pay those bills out of their pocket. I don't want that to happen.
What should our listeners do, Catherine?
Give us a call and discuss your situation with an attorney. The call is free and we'll gladly talk about your situation with you. If you have a case that we can help with, you will owe us nothing out of pocket. We actually make the insurance company pay for us to help you.
There you have it. Call the Advocate, 406-640-4444, or go online, MontanaAdvocates.com. You deserve the Advocates on your side.
Looking for the perfect Christmas gift? Think spicy. 'Tis the season for seasoning with gift packs from Alpine Touch. The 4-spice pack includes 4 Big Mountain flavors for just $19.99. Go to AlpineTouch.com right now for gifts sure to keep mouths watering year-round. And if you plug in the code ESPN at checkout, you'll get a free bag of Alpine Touch sunflower seeds. From gift packs to gift cards to the Grand Slam package, Alpine Touch makes the perfect gift for anyone on your list. Go to AlpineTouch.com right now to order. Alpine Touch, Montana's special spice.
No matter how far you may go, there's always one just down the road. Town Pump, we'll pump it up.
Hey, what a great idea. I'll stop by Town Pump and pick up some Pepsi and Mountain Dew to bring home to the family. 1 liters are buy 2, get 1 free. And 12-pack Pepsi products are only $4.99. Town Pump, quick, easy, and right down the road.
Town Pump, right down the road. Pump it up. Oh, yeah.
Americans waste 2.8 million gallons of single filling for more than 10 seconds uses more fuel, produces more emissions than stopping and restarting. The next time you're stopped for more than 10 seconds at the train, getting coffee, or picking your child up from school, please turn your vehicle off.
Local Missoulian Hokato Eastman is in urgent need of a new automated wheelchair. His current chair is very old and causing life-threatening pressure sores. Hokato's dream chair would allow him to be more independent and to stand for the first time. Please help Hokato gain dignity, health, and quality of life. We hope that you sincerely consider giving money to this worthy and essential life-saving cause. Stop by the Hope Center or find his GoFundMe campaign at thehopecenter.us/wheelchair to donate. Let's get Hokato this chair, Montana.
To Missoula, it matters to us. Ryan Tootell and Colton Nuanez on 102.9 ESPN Radio.
Welcome back. Tootell and Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television. Outstanding to be with you on a Friday night, getting ready for little quarterfinal football of the FCS playoffs. And we'll hear a little bit from a high school student here in just a moment as well. We are broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy. I am here in Missoula. Coulter is in Bozeman at the Rockin' R Bar. Coulter, tell the people down there what's going on right now. I mean, it's busy in there. There's a bunch of people in there, and there's some specials going on as well, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Rockin' R Bar is rocking right now. It's fun to be here. It's a buzz for sure. A lot of blue and gold. A lot of people really excited about this playoff game. So if you're in and around the area, come to the Bobcat game. Come down here. They got specials going on right now. They got Groomer, the Great Bayern beer, actually, from Missoula on special, $3.50 a pint. They also got Coors Original, the banquet beer, $3.50 a pint. They also got some burger specials. You get a burger and a beer for $12. So they got all sorts of stuff going on. High Country Grill here at the Rock and Arbor serves excellent hamburgers, excellent fries. This is a great place to come pregame or postgame, too. If you're listening right now, down at the tailgates or you're in your truck, wherever you might be, come check out the fifth quarter at the Rock and Arbor after the game as well. They'll have all sorts of drink specials. This will certainly be one of the go-to spots, win, lose, or draw for the Bobcats.
Outstanding. I wish I was there with you, man. I'd love to sit in there and, the football, not on the way over to the football game, prior to heading over to that football game, but a great spot to be for sure. We'll take let's do this here. Let's get to our Mattress Firm Student of the Week. Maddie Visser is her name. She is from Manhattan Christian High School, a junior there. Great kid. Here you go, our Mattress Firm Student of the Week. Enjoy. Week from Manhattan Christian High School. She's a junior there, Maddie Visser. Maddie, thank you so much for being with us. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Well, we're happy to have you, certainly, and plenty to talk about with you, but let's start on the court, shall we? You're a volleyball player there at Manhattan Christian, a junior, as we mentioned, and you are also now the reigning Class C champions, beating Bridger in the state championship game back this fall. So congratulations there. Tell us about the team and just the run that you went on to a state championship.
It was an amazing year for us. We had a really great team. The girls really bonded. We had to overcome quite a bit. We had a lot of injuries right at the beginning of the season and all the way through season. We had to work through 6 different defenses at least, and it was really cool just to see how everyone came together and worked hard to make the championship work.
Did you feel like some of those injuries that you had early on, and then when girls got back, the kind of team started to build throughout the year?
Yeah, it was really cool to see how when one person couldn't fill their position because of a concussion or a sprained ankle, other girls just stepped in without complaining, and we got really, really close over that.
You know, Manhattan is such a beautiful town and such a great spot to be. What do you like about Manhattan, just the community that you have there and where you're located?
It's really pretty. You got mountains on every side, but of course the community is absolutely amazing. Everyone is so friendly. Everyone knows everyone, and you know that you're going to be supported in whatever you do.
You know, another thing, by the way, Maddie Visser joining us. She's our Mattress Firm Student of the Week from Manhattan Christian High School. You work a lot with the Special Olympics, and we talked to quite a few kids who, volunteer and do things with the Special Olympics, but you spend a lot of time doing this regularly, and you're, in fact, an official unified partner. What does that mean?
The unified partner is a student who competes with Special Olympians to win medals and to really bond over an athletic that they can participate in together.
And so you have one or maybe more Special Olympians that you're directly tied to for these events?
Yes.
And when are the Special Olympics? When do you compete with them?
We have area games in Belgrade around March or April, and then state games are in May.
And how did you get into the Special Olympics?
I've had a girl in my class with Down syndrome since kindergarten, and ever since then, I've just had a heart for them, and I've loved hanging out with them. They've become really close friends, and then I got the opportunity. Their coach asked me if I would like to be a unified partner, and I was more than happy to help the girls out.
Well, Maddie, that's fantastic. Hey, we really appreciate you being with us. That's an awesome story, and you still got another year left to go defend a volleyball state championship. So best of luck next year on that, and we really appreciate you being with us, okay?
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Maddie. Maddie Visser, our Mattress Firm Student of the Week. If you would like to nominate a Student of the Week, you can go online to mattressfirmmt.com. You click on the Students tab there. Any kid that you know, they don't have to be playing sports, just somebody that you know that's doing a good thing in their school, in their community, in their families, etc. You nominate them there, and then at the end of the year, there's going to be a vote. There'll be a Mattress Firm Student of the Year. that student will receive a $3,000 scholarship courtesy of Mattress Firm. So very cool there. So again, mattressfirmmt.com where you go for that. Hour number 1 in the books. We're an hour away from kickoff in Bozeman, 3 hours away from kickoff in Ogden, and we are ready to kick off the quarterfinals in James Madison. We'll bring it all to you at the top of the hour right after this. Hey, December is winter prep month. The road salts and sands wreak havoc on the paint and finish of your ride. Take care of it. Go to Shine Auto Detailing for car truck from the harsh winter elements by having a premium exterior detail, which includes a ceramic coating final finish. When spring comes around, you simply drive the car through the car wash. It'll look like it's been freshly waxed. You can also go online right now to shineautodetailing.net and click on e-gift card. Put in the code GOGRIZ. You got a $25 off on the e-gift card, okay? Free $25 on that e-gift card. You give it as a present. Signed, sealed, delivered. Christmas is a done deal. ShineAutoDetailing.net. Go get the e-gift card with code GOGRIZ. Do it now.
Hi there. It's Les Schwab Tire. Well, more like Les Schwab alignment, brakes, shocks, wheels, and tires. Now, some tire places don't offer. They only sell tires. And we're not sure how they sleep with it, because all those services affect things like and shopping. That's why we offer more tires to help people. Stop by or book an appointment at LesSchwab.com. Les Schwab Tire, doing the right thing.
On Russell, across from the fairground.
In Western Montana, we know shopping local matters. And you may think you'd pay more for the quality and customer service that comes with it, but not at Selway Armory. Selway Armory is locally owned with knowledgeable specialists that can answer your questions. In addition to the expertise, though, Selway Armory also has a bigger selection and lower prices than the box store. When you're in the market for firearms and accessories, save money with experts at Selway Armory. Selway Armory, 2825 Stockyard Road, Unit B6, and online at SelwayArmory.com.
There's a saying, opportunity never knocks twice. When you're ready to take advantage of your next opportunity, look to your local bank. Opportunity Bank of Montana. Opportunity Bank offers options for mortgage loans, small business loans, equipment financing, agriculture, and more. Our experienced team can provide solutions to help you welcome your next big opportunity. There's nothing like the feeling of progress. So let's get started today. Come see us at your local Opportunity Bank of Montana. OpportunityBank.com, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
This is Mike Nugent with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Berkshire Hathaway provides Western Montana with full-time real estate professionals for you whenever you need us. Our reputation as the state's most knowledgeable and available real estate group has helped build unmatched trust in the Garden City and statewide. If you have been thinking of making a real estate move in the short or long term, give me a call. No pressure, no expectation. Just professional opinions and service at whatever pace you are comfortable. Give me, Mike Nugent, a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question, good day.
The HIP Holiday Market is back, celebrating its 11th year. Support Lowell students and teachers while shopping for great holiday gifts from over 50 local artists at Lowell Elementary. Saturday, December 14th from 10 till 4. Enjoy live music, tasty treats from their renowned bake sale, the Big Sky Grub Truck, prize drawing, a visit from Santa, and all kinds of holiday treats. It's the 11th annual HIP Holiday Market on the 14th from 10 till 4 at Lowell Elementary, 1215 Phillips Street. The HIP Holiday Market is back.
Have you been hurt or disabled? Are you missing time from work? Not sure what to do? I'm attorney Chris Homer, Clark Fork Law. Missoula is here to help. Our team specializes in worker compensation, personal injury, and Social Security disability. We fight for the benefits you deserve. Call Clark Fork Law 728-0168 for a free consultation or visit clarkforklaw.com. Again, 728-0168.
Western Montana, KKPU HD3 Stevensville, and 102.9 FM on K275BS Missoula. ESPN Missoula.
A Big Sky Conference grade is rejoining the league. An NFL grade is part of the Big Sky Conference for the first time, and the FCS playoffs are back in the state of Montana in mid-December. Good evening. I am Ryan Tootell. The FCS playoff quarterfinals begin tonight with 3 games in action. Second-seeded James Madison hosts Northern Iowa right now, kicking off on ESPN2. After that, Weber State hosting Montana at Stewart Stadium in Ogden, Utah. That game kicks off at 8 p.m., also on the Deuce. The Grizz did beat Weber State 35-16 on November the 16th during the regular season. The playoffs will also be raging in the state of Montana as fifth-seeded Montana State hosts Austin P. The Governors went to number 4 Sac State and posted a convincing 42-28 victory last week. Montana State, fresh off a 47-21 drubbing of Albany, is gunning for its first semifinal berth in the FCS playoffs since 1984. That game kicking off from Bobcat Stadium in 1 hour. And finally, this week also included plenty of action across the Big Sky for teams not participating in the playoffs. On Tuesday, Cal Poly hired former Eastern Washington head coach Bo Baldwin to lead its program. And then on Thursday, Northern Colorado upped the ante by hiring Denver Broncos wide receiver Ed McCaffrey. Baldwin led Eastern Washington to 6 playoff appearances. McCaffrey, he's got 3 Super Bowl rings. And just like that, it's time to kick off the quarterfinals of the FCS playoffs. Northern Iowa, James Madison, getting it on right now on ESPN2. Be a fun one to take a look at. The winner will be playing the winner of the Weber State-Montana game. So one for everybody to pay close attention to. How you doing? Tootell Nuanez, hour number 2. Outstanding to be with you. Broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy. Online at kurtzpolaris.com. If you missed anything in the first hour, check it out on the podcast. The podcast available wherever you get your podcasts. You can listen to the Tootell and Nuanez podcast, courtesy of the Wingate by Wyndham Hotel. 329-1899, the phone number. All guests join us via the Rankage Brothers RV phone line, including Will Healy, who we'll hear from in about 20 minutes. He's the head coach of the Charlotte 49ers, but was the head coach of Austin P. Is really the one who turned that program around. Was also a quarterback for the Richmond Spiders in 2008 when they beat the Montana Grizzlies in the national championship game. So all kinds of connections to this state and this weekend in particular. So we'll hear from him in just about 20 minutes. Colton Nuanez is over there in Bozeman. He is at the Rockin' R Bar having, well, a rockin' good time. It was low-hanging fruit, Colter. I had to say that, you know?
No doubt. I mean, next hour up until kickoff, all pints at the Rockin' R Bar, $3. So if you need somewhere to get a quick beer, come on down. It's packed full of Bobcat fans. I actually seen a couple of Missoula people that I recognize here, too. It's so interesting because these two schools, right, it's such a fierce rivalry, and everybody says it's 365 days a year, right? I do think it's 355 days a year, except for maybe the one or couple times when they're both in the national playoffs. I think that even people that dislike the Cats or dislike the Grizz, they can all agree that it would be great for Montana if they had 2 Montana schools in the final. That would just be tremendous. So I think that there's going to be.
I mean, I don't even want to start talking about what Cat Grizz in Frisco, Texas would look like. I realize that's a bit pipe dreamy when you still got James Madison and North Dakota State also alive and healthy. Thank you very much. But I mean, it isn't outside the complete realm of possibility, right?
No doubt. And Tucker Sargent and I rode over with Tucker, former host of this show, at Bozeman today. We were talking about exactly that. But the thing that would be the funniest part is North Dakota State has been such a foregone conclusion in Frisco, Texas. They just call it Fargo South. There was 20,000 plus people there tailgating last year. There was no less than 15,000 people in the stadium for North Dakota State alone. I mean, the FCS National Championship game has sold out, I think, 4 of the last 5 years because of NDSU fans. The funniest part about it, if Montana and Montana State were to play in that game, is there would be all sorts of hanger-ons in green and gold walking around the tailgates because they already had it planned for their vacation. They're just going to go down there to watch it anyways, but NDSU wouldn't be in it. It would be hilarious for the mixing of all 3 of probably the most passionate fan bases in the FCS.
Yeah, no doubt about it. That would be interesting. But hey, we got some time before we get there. Right now, we got to get to the games tonight. By the way, James Madison, Northern Iowa, they've just kicked off. Looks like a turnover on the first play from scrimmage. Northern Iowa going to get the ball deep in James Madison territory. First play, it's snowing right now at James Madison. First play, turnover. And the Panthers got the football, the underdog now, looking for a spark early in this one. How about that?
Wait, it's snowing in Harrisonburg, Virginia?
It looks like snow. Maybe it's pouring down rain. Maybe it's just my
rain.
computer, but it is. Everybody's in long sleeves. It's ugly out.
Has it ever snowed in Harrisonburg?
Yeah, they're in the mountains. Sure, it gets chilly over there.
I'm sure it gets chilly. It just seems as if snow might be a little bit out of the question. But maybe it is. Maybe that would be ironic if there's a clear night game in Bozeman, Montana, and not in Harrisonburg, Virginia.
That would be ironic. Well, we'll certainly keep you updated. They're reviewing the play right now. But Coulter, let's talk about the games that the Montana schools are playing in tonight, and let's start with the one that's going to kick off first over at Montana State in Bozeman. Do this for me. Montana State wins if Austin Peay wins if. What is it going to take for Austin Peay to win? Let's start there.
Well, I think that Austin Peay has to show the same level of confidence, same level of initiative, and the same level of boldness, quite honestly. I mean, Mark Hudspeth talked about it on our show on Monday. He said his initial plan was to go for the onside kick after the first touchdown, but then they got a turnover, and so he didn't have to go for it until after the second touchdown, and then all of a sudden they're up 21-0. But he went all in the first quarter, and the gamble paid off. Getting Sac State down early like that was enormous. And if they can parlay that and keep on rolling with what's been just hot hand after hot hand, that could be huge for them. You know, you just wonder if they can overcome the factor of cross-country travel and fatigue, because they're the only team playing in this quarterfinals. Them and Northern Iowa, the only two teams that played in the first round, didn't have byes. I guess Illinois State played in the first round as well. So there's 3 of the 8 teams that played in the first round, 5 of the 8 that got by. But Austin Peay has no question had to make the most travel. Fly to Sacramento, fly back, get the Friday night game, some 1,800 miles away from Clarksville, Tennessee. So that's going to be a factor as well. But they are hot. So how do they execute? How do they match up? To me, I think that Austin Peay's offense is going to be able to move the ball. Javon Craig's one of the best offensive players in the country. Austin Peay's quarterback. They have skill players across the board. They've been really prolific on offense. Can they stop Montana State's run game? To me, sometimes the numbers lie. Like Austin Peay's 7th in the country in rushing defense. That's respectable, honestly, obviously. But they didn't play in the Big Sky Conference. They didn't play Cal Poly or Weber State or Montana State or Sac State. I don't know how they match up with the elite Big Sky Conference teams. We'll find out. And if they are as advertised, it could be a long day for Montana State's offense. On the other hand, though, if they aren't as advertised, Montana State might be able to enforce their will. So I think Austin Peay, it's all about staying hot and staying bold.
And so for Montana State, Coulter, they get an Austin Peay team that has looked absolutely outstanding. They have for the last 6 weeks, but they're also, as you pointed out, they've been traveling all over the place. A short week for them as well, and they're traveling to Bozeman, 5,500 miles the last 6 days they've put on. What do you think Montana State needs to do to win this game?
They need to stay true to themselves. As Jeff Choate has said, don't back a Bobcat into a corner. They have to maintain that mentality. I thought that was the absolute coming into last week. It would be easy to be riding on your high horse after destroying your rival worse than you've ever beat the Grizzlies in 40-plus years, almost 50 years. And it would be easy to rest on your laurels and underestimate an Albany team coming off their very first playoff win and think, hey, we're at home, we got a bye, we're going to cruise. That wasn't the case. They played like a hungry team that had their backs against the wall, and they have to continue that today. But I think that they will. I think they were the one team in the bracket that really lucked out by an upset and get another home game. The fact is that, it's one thing to play a Friday night game and then ride a bus all the way back to graduation. It's another thing to play at your home stadium, have your family already in town, and then graduate the next day. And that's a scenario for many of these Montana State seniors. So I think they just have to maintain the mentality they got them here.
Well, I don't want to be too cliche or too unoriginal, but I just couldn't agree with Jeff Choate more. I think what he said was absolutely spot on. Generally in these games, the team that is more excited to play, that really wants to be there, is the team that is going to win the football game. And again, I hate using the language of want to. Both these teams want to be there. They're both worked exceptionally hard to be where they are, and they're both going to be excited to play. But sometimes one team just has more juice than the other team, and it's not totally explicable. But if that happens, if one team is clearly on a higher roll, has more energy than the other team, that's the team that's going to win.
And this is the most fascinating dynamic when you talk about a tournament. That's why a tournament is so sweet, because every team has a different storyline, a different narrative, a different legacy. We talked last week about the Sac State team. They had already accomplished the greatest season in school history, so everything else was icing on the cake. Austin Peay's in that same scenario. They've already slayed the dragon. They've already toppled Goliath and beat the 4 seed on the road, 2,200 miles from Clarksville, Tennessee. Montana State, they need a victory to affirm that historic season. Montana State is having one of its best seasons of the 21st century, one of its best seasons of the FCS era, but it's not definitively the best. They have not won 2 playoff games in the same season since 1984. They have not advanced to the FCS semifinals since 1984. They can tonight, so this is a pivotal and paramount moment in their program's history. We'll see if that provides extra motivation or not, but make no mistake, it's a historical, it has historical ramifications. What's on the line in Bozeman?
Tootell, Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, SWX Montana television across the state. We are live. I am with you from Missoula. Coulter at the Rock and R Bar in Bozeman. Thanks for letting us be on board with all of you. By the way, update, James Madison reversing the call. So it was a rule to fumble on the field. They said no, the knee was down, so James Madison has retained the ball. They're now second down at about 12 on the 50-yard line. So in the first drive of the game, still 0-0 early in that one. Coulter, let's change our focus to Ogden, Utah, and the Weber State-Montana game. Let's start with Weber State. They got trounced 35-16, and it wasn't even that close in Missoula. To turn the table, Weber State wins if what?
Weber State wins if they can reassume the bravado that makes them that has made them the most successful team in the Big Sky Conference the last 3 years. Weber State, more than any other team in the league, except for maybe Montana State, Weber State has to be the enforcer. They have to be the tough team in the game. And I think that was the thing that really got away from them. They had never experienced what they experienced in Missoula. One punt block turned into another rolled back punt snap, turned into an absolute butt kick. And they have not gotten physically destroyed like that ever. And I think that they really just folded in the moment. And it's easy to do in front of a rabid Washington Grizzlies Stadium crowd. And when you have any of the guys that you count on to bail you out go down with injuries, I mean, I think that those are huge factors for sure. But Weber State, when they have the mentality and the bravado of an enforcer, they're able to dictate the physicality of the game. And Weber State's biggest personnel advantages are on the lines, particularly their defensive line. So they need a close game or a big lead to let that advantage play out. They need to have a little bit of a cushion, to be able to rush the passer. And they need to have the confidence of being the enforcer on the block. So I think that's why whoever sets the tone early is going to have a huge psychological advantage in this game. For Weber State, though, they need to get back to exactly what has gotten them to this point. They need to be the aggressor and the enforcer in this contest.
And for the Montana Grizzlies, they had the huge win, obviously, as we've talked about, but it's always hard to beat a team twice. And we said, you and I both said yesterday, would you rather have lost a game that you had to play or won a game that you had to play the team the second time? We both said loss. So what's it going to take for the Grizzlies to beat Weber State for a second time in one season?
Well, they absolutely have to just forget that they ever played Weber State. They have to forget the result in Missoula. They have to forget the way that they played. They have to play with the hunger that they played in Missoula. But more than anything, we talk about Montana State and the element of team. And I think Montana is a cohesive team, too. I think Bobby Hauck has done a good job of eliminating the star system and really bringing the locker room together. That said, Montana still has the headlining stars in the entire Big Sky Conference and some of the headlining stars in the FCS. And it's because just the level of talent of those guys. It has nothing to do with personality or promotion. It's all about just how good they are. And so for Montana, I think it really comes down to their best players playing their best game. That's what Montana's going to have to do from here forward to continue to win. They need Dalton Sneed, Ari Toure, Dante Olson, Robbie Hauck, and Marcus Knight to play their best games. And if they do that, they're going to be hard to beat tonight or any other night of the year. But for that to happen, those guys are going to have to really click and synchronize together. And I think they can do it. To me, talking to Dalton Sneed earlier this week, you could see it. He got that look in his eye. Truly understand that this is it, that we are coming down to it. The hourglass is running out of sand. and I think that he's more than excited to embrace the moment. So to me, it comes down to Snead and the rest of Montana's elite talent playing their best games in Ogden, Utah.
Well, it's going to be great. Saw some pictures from the field in Ogden, Utah. It looks clear but cool. In fact, even cold snow all around the stadium, but the field looks like it's great. Not that it needs to be in great shape. It's field turf, I get that, but it's all cleared off, and at least for right now, no precipitation, no snow falling. Obviously, in the next 2.5 hours plus, that could all change, but at least for right now, looks like a pleasant evening in Ogden. Coulter, what's it like in Bozeman right now?
It was about 35 degrees when we walked inside, but pleasant, clear sky, sunny. So now, I mean, we've been inside now for a couple hours here. So let me pull up my weather app. But it was a high of, I think, 28 Bozeman. So maybe a little bit chilly, but it is clear and crisp. Weather right now, the weatherman right now says it's 33 degrees. It's mostly cloudy, but there's no precipitation, so it is dry. So it should be a chance for a clean game. And Gus, this might be my dream come true. We've got two of the better running teams in the country. If they have no trouble holding on to the ball, we could have tit for tat and strength versus strength. So this could be a war in Bozeman tonight. That's what I'm looking forward to so much.
Yeah, everybody can follow your lead now, Coulter, and just watch the Lions play, okay? You don't got to look at anything else tonight. You just watch the Lions in Bozeman and have a great time with it.
Absolutely. I mean, I honestly think that watching the interior offensive lineman versus talent on the interior of the defensive line, like Montana State has on their offensive line, and Austin P has, anchored by Josephus Smith. Man, it's fun to watch. It's a whole different sport. It's like wrestling and UFC wrapped up into one. And I love the combat. I love the battle. And it's going to be really fun to watch these guys lay it all on the line tonight.
Quick update: James Madison, though they were able to keep the ball on the fumble, they did on the drive, and now it is Northern Iowa's turn. They got the ball for the first time in this game in their own territory, fielded a punt on the 10-yard line. It's now going to be about 3rd and 8 on their first drive of the football game. So still nothing between Northern Iowa and James Madison. 9:45 remaining in the first half of that game. Coulter, I know you got to get over to Bobcat Stadium, and
yes,
got an interview that we did with Will Healy earlier on today, he's the head coach of the Charlotte 49ers, and he used to be the Austin P head coach. He's really the guy who got that program turned around and got a bunch of great FCS draft classes in there, which is, again, the guys who are going to be playing tonight against Montana State. And then was also a quarterback on the Richmond team in 2008 that played and won a national championship against Hello, the Montana Grizzlies in Chattanooga, Tennessee. So we'll hear from him after, but just a quick word for you on Will Healy and what he is, a 33-year-old head coach of a FBS team going to the Bahamas Bowl now.
It's amazing that all roads lead to Chattanooga, Tennessee. It's a very interesting dynamic because Javon Craig, quarterback from Austin, he's from Chattanooga, and he talked earlier this week in an article by Greg Rockach at the Billings Gazette about how he grew up his whole life going to the FCS National Championship game in Chattanooga and how he knew about FCS football because of that, and how he knew it was a good level of football. So when he got offered by Will Healy, he was more than willing to go play at this level, even though, who knows what sort of talent he might have had coming out of Chattanooga, but he was more than willing to play at this level. And then you talk about Will Healy from Chattanooga, led the Richmond Spiders to the greatest win in their program history in Chattanooga. And then you talk about the fact that win was against Bobby Houck in Chattanooga. So you have cross-pollination all across this thing. That's what makes college football so fun to me, is just the relationships and how the wicked web that we might weave, it is not very broad. There is a lot of connections, even when you're talking about teams from across the country, that you can make to Montana and otherwise as well. So Chattanooga's the spot that binds all the characters that we just talked about for the last 25 minutes. But I'll leave you with this. It's a great day to be alive, man. The fact that both Montana schools are in the Elite Eight, this is something that I've been waiting for a really long time. It's awesome. We talked about it on the Big Sky Breakdown earlier this week, but it is awesome when teams actually and truly fulfill the potential and the prognostication that you have for them. And that's what we're seeing with the Grizzlies and the Bobcats right now. I think it's awesome that the Big Sky is going to have at least one and maybe two semifinal qualifiers. And I think it's also tremendous for the FCS because if Montana and Montana State were to win tonight and NDSU and James Madison were to take care of business this week, now you have arguably the 4 most passionate fan bases, the 4 premier, most publicized, and most high-ranking FCS programs in the country in the semifinals. It's what we would, if you were just to say, what are the expectations of every program? Here's where they should be. If you were to really account for every little thing, these are the 4 teams that should be there, and we're only one step away from that. And I think that's awesome, amazing for us, for the Big Sky Conference, and for FCS football.
Yeah, it's a great point, and it is true, and it is a great day to be alive. It's going to be a ton of fun starting, in just about a half an hour from now. Already started at James Madison. So, Coulter, enjoy the game. Get on over there. I know you got to hustle across a little bit of town to get into the stadium,
yes,
so
sir.
Enjoy that. After this, though, Will Healy joining us right after these messages.
In Western Montana, we know shopping local matters. And you may think you'd pay more for the quality and customer service that comes with it, but not at Selway Armory. Selway Armory is locally owned with knowledgeable specialists that can answer your questions. In addition to the expertise, though, Selway Armory also has a bigger selection and lower prices than the box store. When you're in the market for firearms and accessories, save money with experts at Selway Armory. Selway Armory, 2825 Stockyard Road, Unit B6, and online at selwayarmory.com.
This is Mike Nugent with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Berkshire Hathaway provides Western Montana with full-time real estate professionals for you whenever you need us. Our reputation as the state's most knowledgeable and available real estate group has helped build unmatched trust in the Garden City and statewide. If you have been thinking of making a real estate move in the short or long term, give me a call. No pressure, no expectations. Just professional opinions and service at whatever pace you are comfortable. Give me, Mike Nugent, a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
Hey, it's Coulter, and I'm here with Catherine from The Advocates. If you've been in a car accident or need help dealing with the insurance companies, you should give The Advocates a call. They can tell you if you have a case right over the phone.
That's right. It doesn't cost anything to call, and we'd be happy to talk to you and assess your situation. You don't want to have to deal with contacting the insurance companies and setting up a claim. We can do that for you. We take the hassle out of the process so you can just focus on getting better.
There you go, folks. If you've been injured in an accident, give The Advocates a call, 406-640-4444, or online at montanaadvocates.com. You deserve The Advocates.
The biggest season in sports is shifting into overdrive, and the Desperado Sports Tavern has the fuel you need to make it to the finish line. By now, you've heard that the Despo serves the best wings around, but did you know they have a full menu with burgers, nachos, chicken strips, sandwiches, cheese sticks, and even steaks? Fill your tank, then wash it down with an ice-cold beverage or two. Keep your head in the game with 32 HD TVs and room for the whole crew. The Desperado Sports Tavern on South Russell across from the Y.
Registration for Kiwanis basketball is open now through December 18th. Kiwanis basketball gives middle school boys and girls an opportunity to compete on the basketball court in an environment that is fun and promotes good sportsmanship. It is a free program that is supported through the fundraising efforts of the Kiwanis Club of Missoula. Visit MissoulaKiwanis.com for info and to register.
Last May, Hen Spoon Winery partnered with the Historical Museum with Hello to Old Missoula, Missoula's History Through Art, an event where attendees voted on their favorite piece of art, which would become the next 10 Spoon wine label. Votes are counted, and Megan Odell's piece depicting the 1990s Roxy Theater fire was the winner. Now you can drink wine for history, as 10 Spoon is dedicating a portion from every bottle of Roxy Fire wine sold to the Historical Museum. Find it now at local retailers or call 406-549-8703.
Good afternoon. Ryan Tootell here with you. Here's some sports news for you. The Big Sky Conference has a couple of new head coaches, and the FCS playoffs are into the quarterfinals. That started tonight in James Madison, still 0-0 as they play in the first quarter. James Madison and Northern Iowa out halfway through the first quarter. No score yet from Harrisonburg, Virginia. After this game, which is on ESPN2, Weber State hosts number 6 Montana from Stewart Stadium in Ogden. That game at 8 o'clock. The Grizz dismantled the Big Sky champion Wildcats 35-16 in Missoula on November 16th. And again, that game also on The Deuce. The playoffs will also be raging in the state of Montana as fifth-seeded Montana State hosts Austin Peay. The Governors went to number 4 Sac State and posted a convincing 42-28 victory last week. Montana State, fresh off a 47-21 drubbing of Albany, is gunning for its first semifinal berth in the FCS playoffs since 1984. This week also included plenty of action across the Big Sky Conference for the teams not participating in the playoffs. On Tuesday, Cal Poly hired former Eastern Washington head coach Bo Baldwin to lead its program. And then on Thursday, Northern Colorado upped the ante by hiring former Denver Broncos wide receiver Ed McCaffrey. Baldwin led EWU to 6 playoff appearances, 5 Big Sky titles, and 4 Final Four appearances, as well as the 2010 national championship. McCaffrey, he won 3 Super Bowls, spent his last 2 seasons as the head coach at Valor Christian High School. That's Valor Christian High. A little different from Valley Christian. You may be familiar with. Hey, boys and girls. Tootell and Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television. Outstanding to be with you on this Friday night. Real-time updates, 5 minutes left in the first quarter. James Madison, 1st and 10 on the Northern Iowa 16-yard line into the red zone. Goes James Madison. Trying to open the scoring. Still nothing there. We'll keep you updated on that. We are broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Celia, and online at kurtzpolaris.com. If you'd like to listen live, you can do so on the website, 1029ESPN.com. You listen live thanks to Opportunity Bank, your local bank, your opportunity. And it is time now for our Opportunity Bank Coach's Corner, Will Healy. He's the head coach of the Charlotte 49ers. They're in the FBS. But he was the Austin Peay head coach who got that program all turned around and was also a quarterback on the Richmond Spiders team that beat the University of Montana in the 2008 national championship. He's 33 years old. He's taken a team to the Bahamas Bowl. Very, very cool. So please enjoy this conversation with now Charlotte 49ers head coach Will Healy.
Here we go now. The Rankin Brothers RV phone line. We welcome in the current head coach of the Charlotte 49ers football team. They are in a bowl eligible for the first time in school history. Will Healy joining us. Coach Healy, thanks so much for being with us. How are you?
Glad to do it. Appreciate y'all having me. I'm doing great.
Yeah, well, we're happy to have you. Now, people who don't know may be going, well, you know, it's great that Charlotte's bowl eligible, but why is the head coach on the show here in Montana? Well, a couple reasons. Will Healy became the Charlotte head coach after being the head coach with Austin Peay for 4 seasons. Huge turnaround there at Austin Peay, and also was the quarterback of the Richmond Spiders in the 2008 national championship game, in which Richmond beat the University of Montana for a national championship. So we got a bunch of stuff to cover here, Will. But let's start with you and your team right now. You're 2-5 at one point this season, and it's going, okay, how's this thing going to play out? You rip off 5 wins, your last 5, you're bowl eligible for the first time. What changed in the middle of the season that made you guys just kind of turn the ship around here?
Well, I think a lot of it was on me. You know, I mean, you get in early. We had some success, had a shot to beat App. We're 2-1, and we went into Death Valley and played Clemson, and obviously that went about as expected. And then all of a sudden you lose the next 3. And for me, from a culture perspective, I don't know if my same priorities, the things that I was preaching, were the things that we were really living by. And I mean that by what were our priorities in meetings? You know, what were we focusing on? The small things that I think get you beat in big time football games and close football games. You know, the culture pieces. And I know culture is a word that's used a lot in the college profession now, but I mean, it's really, what does your process look like from Monday to Friday where you can have success on Saturday, and then what's your process look like for 60 minutes on Saturday to have success? So kind of zooming back in, focusing back in, making sure that everybody's on the same page. And I thought we got back to that the week we played Western Kentucky. We didn't win the game, but I still felt tides were turning. I got back to who I was and what I believed in versus just kind of allowing a group that was having some success to continue with the ways that they had done it, and you know, learned a lot from it. And next thing you know, we come back home and play a really good North Texas team. We're down 14 points in the fourth quarter and find a way to score in the last minute. And then we, you know, that winning became contagious. We got hot, went on a roll, beat Middle Tennessee, went to UTEP, won our first road game of the year, came back home and beat a really good Marshall team, and then went on the road and beat Old Dominion to win 5 in a row. And now, make the first bowl game in school history, have the most wins in school history, and people around here are excited about Charlotte football. So been a special year, especially the way they responded to the adversity in the middle. And now you got a good head start and a pretty good foundation for what you can build on.
I think in this side of the country, it's easy to forget who some of the head coaches are that you had to square off against in your first half of your first season there at Charlotte. But I know that Elijah Drinkwitz has it rolling at App State. They're in the top 20. But then Dabo Sweeney, Lane Kiffin, Butch Davis. That was 3 weeks in a row. So as a young head coach, what was it like squaring off with those guys?
Well, I'm sure they were looking at me like I'm really going up against this 12-year-old. So I don't quite have the history that those guys have. Obviously, Drinkwitz just getting the Missouri job is a great opportunity for him. He did a great job at App State. So did Scott Satterfield. So that program's rolling. And you go in and play Dabo, a guy that I've always looked up to and has been a really good mentor for me. And the number one team in the country with that they played 111 guys against. So that probably tells you how that game went. And then you play Lane and Butch Davis and Doc Holliday and Rick Stockstill. I mean, there's some really good coaches in this league that have a lot more wins than I do and have a lot more experience than I do. But I think you just got to be comfortable with who you are and what you believe in. And again, it goes back to the culture piece. What does your week look like to be able to have a chance to have success on Saturday?
Will Healy joining us. He's the head coach of the Charlotte 49ers. They're in the Bahamas Bowl this year, Friday, December 20th, taking on Buffalo. And, Coach, one more question about this. It seems like football has changed dramatically over time, right? Just the style of football and kind of the norms of it, but also coaching as well. And it used to be, the Bear Bryants and maybe some of the old guard, the Nick Sabans of the world are can we say on the serious side? And not to say that you're not serious, but I don't think Nick Saban's doing club lit in the locker room when it's all said and done. And when you sit here and you go, hey, this is what I want this to be. I'm a young coach. I want to get in here and make my mark and do this the way I would have liked it to be done or something like that. And you start throwing parties in the locker room postgame. What's that? Where does that all come from? And what do you think is the right way to go about it?
Well, the crazy part about it is that 2 seasons ago at Austin Peay, we had lost 46 out of the last 47 games and 29 games in a row. And we went and played Cincinnati to start the season, had an opportunity to beat them, turned the ball over on the 3, got stopped on 4th and 1 from the 2, and I think got beat like 20-13 to break that we were 55-point underdog. So I felt a lot better about what direction our program was heading. Then we go the next week, we go play Miami of Ohio, and they just swamp us. I mean, they beat us up, and we looked disinterested to be there. And so I went back in and I talked to the leadership committee the next week, and I said, what is it? Monday through Friday, you guys have so much energy. You're enjoying practice. We're getting better. And then Saturday, the game day, y'all don't even look interested in being out there. What do I need to change? What do I not know that we need to fix? And one of our fifth-year seniors, Max Ewalt, said, Coach, Monday through Friday, we get to hide. Nobody sees us. We don't lose a football game. He said Saturdays we've lost around here for so long that they're not fun, and nobody enjoys it. So I said, you know what? We're playing Morehead State that week, who is non-scholarship, and I said if we can find a way to win this game, nobody in the country is going to have more fun enjoying success than we. And so we end up finding a way to win the game. We tear down the goalpost. We smoked cigars in the locker room. I think it took like 2 weeks to air it out. Yeah. We practiced on like an 80-yard field because there was a big hole in both end zones for 2 weeks, and we enjoyed it. And so every game that year, we ended up going 8-1 against FCS competition, and every game that year we enjoyed it. And to me, it's always stuck with me that if you don't enjoy your success, then why are you doing it? And so every game for us, when we win, is a party. We got a DJ in there. He comes every game. If we win, he goes home. If we win, he sets up. If we lose, he goes home. And turn the lights out, turn the disco ball on, strobe lights on, and I usually try to find some kind of unique celebration that we can go in there and enjoy. And but I think it's really important to enjoy success because that'll give them that feeling and that taste that I think will push them through the week. They'll crave that feeling again, and if you're not enjoying the successes, then why are you doing it?
That's awesome.
Will, you're from Chattanooga. You got your coaching start at Chattanooga, but then you get your first head coaching job at Austin Peay. But at that moment, Austin Peay was arguably one of the toughest, if not the toughest, jobs in Division I football. I mean, I think that they had lost something like 45 out of 46 games. It was not a good state of affairs in Clarksville, Tennessee. What drew you to the Austin Peay job, and how were you able to embrace the challenge of rebuilding that program?
Well, it was a 256th ranked job at a 256 Division I job.
There you go.
So obviously the talent pool, the candidate pool was extremely large. With I think every volunteer coach in the country felt like they could get it, and so I got it because I think nobody else wanted it, and it felt really good about the recruiting area, an area I was really familiar with. I felt like I could bring a great staff in there, even though at the beginning they gave me $250,000 to hire 10 full-time assistants and a director of football operations. And then, we raised some money to be able to get that up to hire a great staff. And I also feel like any point in time when you're a 30-year-old head coach, you want to take a program where you feel like you can exceed expectations. And for me, if you won 2 games in 4 years, I thought they'd build a statue of it. So,
right.
It was, it was a perfect job to take when you're learning. And we recruited the number 1 recruiting class in FCS football after going 0-11 in year 1, and created a buzz about the program, broke an attendance record with the nation's longest losing streak. I think that city was hungry for a competitive football team, and like I said, you got hot, your guys believed, and we started to overachieve, and it snowballed in a really good way from there. And what they've been able to do since, I think is it's really incredible to think that 2 years ago we were trying to get the first win in 4 years, and now they're in the final 8 of the NCAA playoffs, and some really good players on that team, some really good leaders on that team, and just so excited for their success.
Well, it's interesting too, as the Austin Peay playing Bozeman at Montana State tonight, 6:00 kickoff Mountain Standard Time, and you talked about the number 1 FCS recruiting class that year, but I think you were a top 5 FCS recruiting class each year that you were there, and so the group that's there is an unbelievably talented group right now. That you brought in. I know that you're preparing for the bowl game and everything. You got your hands full of Charlotte, but are you keeping an eye on what's going on with the Governors and as they're making this kind of playoff run here? And what do you expect tonight out of them as they're playing at Montana State? Have been rolling here this last month, 6 weeks of the season, including into the playoffs and through a couple of weeks.
I hadn't missed a game. There's a part of your heart that rips out every time you turn on most of them are on ESPN Plus, so you're watching it on your phone, but. Because you invested so much with those guys, you got such great relationships, and really the last picture they have of you is you walking out on them to take a bigger job and a job that pays more money, and those guys that are still playing right now are the reason why I have this opportunity. And so, the worst part about this profession is sometimes things that you feel like are going to be beneficial for your family and for your assistants, you're also leaving a group behind that's really the ones who've done the work and given you the opportunity. So I think Mark Hudspeth has done an amazing job. And for those who don't remember him, Mark was the head coach at Louisiana and was one of the top coaches in the country. I mean, I feel like every year he was mentioned for ACC and SEC jobs and did a tremendous job there, left there and took an assistant job at Mississippi State, and they were really fortunate to get him at Austin Peay. And what he's done has been amazing. I know they wish they even had a couple games back this year, lost to Tennessee State and lost to East Tennessee, and then up 24 to 10, I think, late in the game against Central Arkansas. That could be a 14-0 group coming in tonight. So it is a very talented football team. It's a group that went through a disappointing season last year, going from 8-4 to 5-6. I felt like I didn't do a great job as a head coach there a year ago, and so they're hungry and they're I don't think they're phased by the big stage. You got a lot of older guys on that team that provides some stability, and I know they'll be really excited about another opportunity to head west. I think the trips, they got back at 7 a.m. Last Sunday from California, and now you got to turn around and go back to Montana. So a lot of traveling over the last couple of days, a short week for them, but always expect those guys to go out and play really well.
Are you jealous you're missing the trip to Montana in the middle of December?
Yeah,
I feel like it's Montana here right now. We just had a practice this morning, and it's freezing cold and raining. I'd rather it be snowing. No, I'm not jealous of being in Montana, but I am jealous of being a Texas guy. And a special group that changed the entire – it made Austin Peay a top 10 program in the country. And 4 years ago, 3 seasons ago, that was the worst job in the country. That group went 0-11. And, Javon Craig and some of those guys that are playing, Tootell Williams, those guys are playing great football. Not only did they sign with an 0-11 football team, they went through an 0-11 season. And to see how they've changed the face of that program and changed the culture there, something I'm really proud of. It makes me feel good because the promise that I had for them, we're going to win an OVC championship, we're going to play in the playoffs, compete for a national championship, is actually happening. The problem is they had to get rid of me to make it happen.
Well, we'll get you out of here on this. It's interesting because you mentioned Javon Craig, and this little interview that we're doing, all roads lead to Chattanooga. Javon Craig's from Chattanooga. He talked about growing up there and watching FCS national championship games and wanting to get back to that point yourself. You're from Chattanooga, started your coaching career at Chattanooga, and the FCS national championship game used to be in Chattanooga. You yourself were quarterback of the Richmond Spiders when you guys beat the University of Montana in the 2008 national championship games. What do you remember about that game, and what's special about your hometown to you?
I remember getting a personal foul on punt return because one of those big old boys from Montana pancaked me, and I couldn't get out from underneath them. So that was basically the only way I could get in the stat book. We only had 2 quarterbacks on the roster, I think, but I was still listed as 14, if I can remember correctly. I remember Lawrence Sidbury going off. I remember a throwback pass from John Crone back to Eric Ward for a touchdown. We were up 21-0, I think, at one point in time. I also remember the wideout on the first series, the guy that played for the Titans. Is it Mariani?
Yep.
Yeah. Dove, laid out, and caught a huge pass on the first drive. And you're like, oh my goodness. I think there was a transfer quarterback. It looked like the entire Big 10 was or Big 12 was on the offensive line. So it was a really good football team. We were hot. It was a very similar story to what we have here right now. We had gone 4-3, lost to Virginia, Villanova, and James Madison. So we had to win out to make the playoffs. And then it just scored in the last 15 seconds of the game the week before against Northern Iowa to make it there. And so special group, great group of people. I'll always remember that season and that game. But I remember Brandon Fisher being on the team. How about I played Brandon Fisher in the national championship game and the state championship game. I actually played a little bit more in the state championship game than I did the national championship game. But took the last snap and remember holding up the trophy in my hometown, a game that I'd always dreamed of playing in since I got to Richmond. And, even went and watched it whenever I was playing at Richmond, just thought about how cool it would be to play my last game in my hometown. For that to happen was remarkable. Great experience, and, remember it forever.
Well, Will, we certainly appreciate your time. You've been very generous with it. Best of luck on December 20th against Buffalo in the Bahamas Bowl. Find a nice tall water slide to slide down and enjoy it over there, and then go win the football game, all right?
I'll do it. Thanks, guys. Appreciate your time, and I know you're not supposed to say this in Montana, but go Govs.
There you go. Go Govs from Will Healy, the former Austin Peay head coach, current Charlotte 49ers head coach. It was great to talk with him. We certainly appreciate his time. That's our Opportunity Bank Coach's Corner, brought to us by, Opportunity Bank, your local bank, your opportunity. Hey, want to remind everybody, you still got time, go check out the FCS Speculators podcast. We've been putting this on all football season long. There's another one out for you right now, but There's a lot of great information for you about all these quarterfinal games, including tomorrow's North Dakota State, Illinois State game. You go check that out wherever you get your Tootell Nuanez podcast. You listen to the FCS Speculators podcast as well. We'll take a quick break, come back, wrap up the week, and get set for kickoff in Bozeman and Ogden right after this.
Not all gift cards are created equal. The Montana Club gift card comes with more handcrafted breakfast, lunch, and dinner favorites than any other local card. Home-style breakfasts, perfectly grilled Angus steaks, piled high sandwiches, expertly mixed cocktails, local craft beers, and much, much more. This year, give Montana made. Buy in-store or at montanaclub.com. Give $100 in gift cards and get a $10 gift card free. It's easy. Happy holidays from everyone at your Montana Club.
It's a rite of passage. That first bank account. Explore the great options for your young adult with a visit to Farmer State Bank, online at farmersebank.com or in person at any of our 9 locations in western Montana. Our checking and savings accounts are designed to fit any lifestyle and budget with the flexibility, innovations, and security today's consumers demand. Start out right with Farmer State Bank, or Montana Banks in 1907. FDIC.
No matter how far you may go, there's always one just down the road. Town Pump, ooh, pump it up.
Burritos and beer. They just go together, don't you think? Stop by your local Town Pump and pick up a 24-pack of Pabst or Rainier for only $17.99. And grab a couple of burritos from the deli, 2 for $2.22. Make your stop fast and convenient at Town Pump, right down the road.
Town Pump, right down the road. Pump it up, yeah.
Gifts from Florence Coffee Company are as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1, buy a $20 gift card and receive one $5 gift card free. 2, pick up a gift bag complete with mug, coffee, and a $10 gift card, all for only $25. 3, choose from a selection of winter travel mugs. 5% of all gift card sales go to the Montana Food Bank. Go to any Florence Coffee location or go to florencecoffeeco.com.
Florence Coffee Company.
Americans waste 3.8 million gallons of single filling for more than 10 seconds uses more fuel, uses more emissions than stopping and restarting. The next time you're stopped for more than 10 seconds at the train, getting coffee, or picking your child up from school, please turn your vehicle off.
Local Missoulian Hokato Eastman is in urgent need of a new automated wheelchair. His current chair is very old and causing life-threatening pressure sores. Hokato's dream chair would allow him to be more independent and to stand for the first time in 20 years. Please help Hokato gain dignity, health, and quality of life. We hope that you sincerely consider giving money to this worthy and essential life-saving cause. Stop by the Hope Center or find his GoFundMe campaign at thehopecenter.us/wheelchair to donate. Let's get Hokato this chair, Montana.
Tootell.
Welcome back. Tootell Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television. Outstanding to be with you. Broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy, online at kurtzpolaris.com. And again, want to say a big thanks to Mike Hope and Tony over at the Rockin' R Bar in Bozeman for hosting today. Coulter was over there for the show, and a great spot over there. If you're in Bozeman, if you're going to the game, hey, even if you're not, head over to the Rockin' R Bar for the 5th quarter. Great drink specials. After the game's going to be over at 9, you can see what happens down in Ogden. Watch the second half of the Grizz Weber State game. Keep an eye on everything that's going on there, and have yourself, well, a great post-game and pre-graduation in Bozeman at the Rockin' R Bar. So, again, thanks to them for supporting the show and supporting what we're doing over there as well. That's really, really good of them. Hey, if you would like to listen to this show on the podcast, you can do that. It's available, well, wherever you get your podcast. It's there thanks to the Wingate by Wyndham Hotel. We're going to finish up the week with our 2-minute mashup here in just a couple of minutes. But a couple of quick final thoughts. By the way, a quick update. It is 7-0 now in favor of James Madison early in the second quarter of this football game. Northern Iowa is driving. They picked up a couple first downs here. They're out to about the 35-yard line, 40-yard line or something like that in their own territory. But they do have the ball, but just a 7-point game now. James Madison scoring on their second possession of the game. So up early in that one, but still a close football game on ESPN too. As I've thought about these games for Montana and Montana State, and Coulter said it nicely. I mean, for these two teams to be where we knew they could be, but you never know, if you're going to fulfill potential until you in fact do it or don't. And both these teams have, and I think both fan bases have great reason for excitement, for optimism about the teams, what they've accomplished this season, and what they could accomplish tonight, and the fact that both these teams are into the national quarterfinals. And are both, if you believe the pundits, favored in this football game, is pretty impressive, and it's exciting, and the rivalry is a great one, and should always have some tension and some contention with it. But also, I think that the state of Montana at large should be excited about the quality that both of these football programs have ascended to this year, and hopefully what is a foundation for future success going forward. Now, we could talk about legacies and all that kind of stuff when the season is over, but it ain't over yet. It's kicking off in Bozeman right now and in 2 hours in Ogden, Utah. And so until, let's see what happens and enjoy it. But for both teams to be playing nationally, obviously important, but also televised or exposed games on December the 13th is big time. And it's big for the state of Montana. It's big for both cities, both universities, and important because really both football programs, both athletic departments are the front door to the schools. And that is an important part of what university life in America is. I mean, it's a reality, and it's exciting. And I, for one, can't wait to get going. Okay? Hope you're on with me on. Boys and girls, enjoy the 2-minute mashup. I mean, I'm a simple man. I got free cars.
Hello, Montana.
Montana, 73-28, their win over southeastern Louisiana.
I know Maury got that record today, and I'm sitting here, and we're talking about how many yards I passed for, but 0 sacks, that's the highlight of the day for me.
Dalton Snead Coulter was as good as I've seen him.
I thought the quarterback today really played at such a high level. Everything that he did, it just seemed like it turned to gold, man. He's a good player. He was... I don't want to say he was fun to watch. Maybe if I was sitting in the stands, he'd be fun to watch, but on the sidelines, he's a nightmare.
Saturday was Montana's dream game to have gotten into the playoffs for the first time since 2015, to be now into the quarterfinals for the first time since 2012.
Exciting for us to be back in the quarterfinals.
Well, they never won the fourth. I think that's the albatross that is the asterisk on Bobby Hauck's career.
Our football program's the most visible thing at this university.
Bo Baldwin leaving the Power 5 to go be a head coach again in the Big Sky Conference, and not just in the Big Sky Conference, at Cal Poly. Major news breaking out of the Big Sky Conference. Northern Colorado has hired Ed McCaffrey to be its new head football coach.
Every coach in every league in America is going to always talk about how good their league is.
I like those people. What a day for Montana State.
There's no doubt that it was a complete victory in all three phases.
Tucker Rovig put on a show.
When you play one of the 16 best teams in the country, you're going to need your best.
All right, Isaiah, if you're really this into it, you're on.
Go do it.
And then he goes and blocks a punt.
You turn a setback into a comeback, and I really think that's what we did.
Will Healy joining us. He's the head coach of the Charlotte 49ers.
If you won 2 games in 4 years, I thought they'd build a statue of it. Every game for us, when we win, is a party. And I said, if we can find a way to win this game, nobody in the country is going to have more fun enjoying success than we. So we end up finding a way to win the game. We tear down the goalposts. We smoke cigars in the locker room. I think it took like 2 weeks to air it out.
I think Dalton Snead, pretty mature guy, and I think he understands what this all means, what it means to him, what it means to the people.
Just got to stay locked in, prepare as if we haven't played them.
I mean, I don't want to grovel.
Play every game like it's your last, and if you're fortunate enough to get the one after that, you go and play that one like it's your last as well.
I got my own life to live, too. Why am I watching what you're doing?
Oftentimes, it's just lip service.
Love the Red Box Bowl. How long before Red Box will be going away following Blockbuster Video?
Yeah, and then I love Missoula, Montana, too.
I love Missoula. Great spot.
Very good. Excellent work getting Jesse Palmer in there on the Missoula love at the end. Excellent work, David, as always. Appreciate that. Producing the show for us and putting together the 2-minute matchup each and every week. that was pretty fun. Boys and girls, just about through on a Friday night. Still 7-0 James Madison. They got the ball back there at the 50-yard line. You can watch on ESPN2. But right now on ESPN plus ESPN3, kicking it off in Bozeman, Montana. Montana State, Austin P. Enjoy that. And then the Grizz and Weber State at 8 p.m. It's all icing, right? At this point, maybe they got to win tonight, and then it's all icing. Okay, a win today into the semifinals. See what happens with Northern Iowa, with Illinois State. But you win tonight for the Cats and the Grizz, and the season is just a glistening golden success. Period. End of story. So you got to go get it done the day before graduation, for crying out loud. You know what I'm saying? Make it happen. Walk tomorrow. Have a great week. And then play with house money in the semifinals, even if it is in Fargo and at James Madison. Who cares? Let it happen. I'm off to a 7th grade basketball game and then in front of my television for the very long haul. Look forward to all of it. Boys and girls, great week to be with you. Enjoy. Be safe. See you Monday.
If you're looking for the perfect Christmas gift, think spicy. 'Tis the season for seasoning with gift packs from Alpine Touch. The 4-spice pack includes 4 Big Mountain flavors for just $19.99. Go to Alpine.